Welcome to Celebrating Act Two. Another day, another interesting subject. Today it's Rob Ray, who you're going to find to be an absolutely fascinating person. And John, take it away.
Thanks. Now, before we meet Rob, I just want to say that I think he is, first of all, he's just recently retired, which is
Mm.
pretty common for most people our age or his age. And I think he's an extreme hobbyist. And by that, we'll meet Rob and find out exactly what I mean. Rob,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
So,
Good morning.
an extreme hobbyist. You've had a hobby that you've done all your life, not just picked it up, not a little woodworking on the side, but your whole life you've been interested. Tell us
My
what this
entire adult
hobby
life,
is.
Right.
since I was about 24. Yes. I came of age just as the videotape was coming into creation and video recorders and the whole concept of you could record television. You didn't have to when I was growing up younger. If you wanted to see a certain show on television, you had to make an appointment, rearrange your life, and make sure you were in front of a television set
Mm.
at a certain time and place. And of course, that all changed with the VCR. And so I came of age, born in 56. So I was about 23, 24 when the videotape recorder came into being, and it was love at first sight with that. And I started collecting occasional commercial purchases on VHS tape, but found in those days, we're still in the late 70s, early 80s, the prices to buy a movie on videotape. I remember spending 89.95 for a magnetic
Mm.
video copy of The Sound of Music in mono sound, horrible mono sound on movie split into two separate tapes. Um, and then I discovered Laserdisc, and Laserdisc was half the price of videotape in those days. You could get a movie for under $40 in full stereophonic sound at a time when VHS tape was strictly mono. Now, over the years, as time progressed, videotape started catching up with Laserdisc as far as sound quality was concerned to a certain extent. But Laserdisc was the first to introduce letterbox movies, widescreen. You could see widescreen movies in their correct aspect ratio, which growing up watching films on television, you never ever saw a widescreen movie in its correct aspect ratio. It didn't seem possible. And so that was
Rob, if we could for just a second, because our audience, you're at the younger age, younger
yes.
end of baby boomers.
Mhm.
John and I have been flirting with this since the early days of baby boomers. Uh, it might be kind of interesting first before we go because we're going to go for a while on your passion project
Mhm.
that you've had most of your life. But it'd be interesting to find out why you retired because a lot of people you're kind of young by today's standards to be retired. What
Mhm.
what made you think about retiring? And then I'd like to get back into why what you're planning on doing with your passion. So if you could tell us a little bit more about what your work life was like and why you retired.
Uh, my work my work was never my passion, and that was kind of a conscious decision because I had lots of friends, quote unquote, in the industry, and most of them worked job to job, and they were half the time they were unemployed, and it was a rags or riches type thing. Either they were making uh, they're having steady working and earning lots of money, and then the following year they were completely out of work. I wanted the steady paycheck. Uh, I guess I took the lazy way. Uh, my job was never my passion, but going in from day one, my goal was to build up a nest egg and retire at 65. I didn't quite make 65 for various reasons that were not financial. Uh, but I started. If somebody were to ask me the key to having a secure retirement is work on that 401k as early as possible. And I started maximizing my contributions to 401k when the concept of 401k was created in the sometime in the 80s.
Mm.
So that was the key, and also lucky enough never to be out of work in the ensuing years. But that's just luck of the draw.
You
Uh,
were well prepared to retire,
yes.
and
Which was been a goal of mine my entire life, was to retire at 65 and and just focus on my passions at that point, while I was still young enough to be able to enjoy it.
sure, and that passion really started the television, and radio, and film passion as a collector.
Mm.
Really started when you were very, very young,
Yeah.
and blossomed with the age of videotape. Um,
Yeah, and
I
especially laser. As I said, I couldn't afford, especially in those days, I really couldn't afford videotapes. Although I recorded everything off of TCM and off of and before TCM it was
Mm.
TNT. When TNT was basically TCM with commercials.
yeah,
That's how far back I go. It was strictly old movies and nothing else. Um, I still have videotapes in the other room of stuff off of TNT, and then early days of TCM, and then moved on to Laserdisc for collecting commercially, and then of course DVD and later Blu-ray. And during the DVD era, I had a DVD recorder, and I have pretty much everything that ran on TCM from about 2003 through 2010 uh, on I wouldn't say it's not high def certainly, but it's DVD quality, which is
yeah,
certainly watchable by
Now,
today's standards.
certainly the trove of your collection over the years, you even before you recently retired,
Mhm.
you've been besides being a fan, you've also shared much of the knowledge that you've gained over the years and some of your collection
Yeah.
as a friend of the community, if you will.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you tell us about that and the kinds of things you've been doing uh, pre-retirement?
Oh, certainly. Back in the '90s, I had a friend who shared my passion for old movies, and he was taking a film class at Long Beach School for Adults, and wanted to borrow some of my laser discs to take to class for his class. He said, "Would you loan me your laser discs?" Well, I had had a bad experience loaning videos, and so I said, No, I won't loan the laser discs, but I'd be happy to bring them to the class," which I did, and it opened up a a new career at nights, providing film programs for the Long Beach School for Adults for from 1997 through 2012. And we would, based on my collection, we would show uh, a coming attraction for the following week, followed by a cartoon and maybe one or two or even three shorts, depending on how long the feature was, and then a feature program. We would program a 3 hour time block, and that was such fun. And mapping out what titles we were going to do for the following semester, and there was usually a theme, whether it was film noir, or whether it was a salute to a certain studio or a certain celebrity, or a certain director, those were happy days.
Mm.
well, it
And so
sounds
that inspired me to want to do something similar as when I reached retirement.
it sounds like 50 years of collecting has made you an expert,
Mhm.
and you've done public speaking. And I guess the question is, now that you're retired, what do you do with all this? That's the question you're facing,
That's
right?
the question I'm facing.
Yeah.
And I have friends that say, well, one thing you should do is do go on some blogs, and set up one of your own. So I've written some articles for Newsbreak, uh, and for Pastimes newsletter
Mhm.
and a few other things. But yeah, I'm at when I say recently retired, this is like within this year,
Mm.
earlier
Wow.
this year,
Good.
and so just been a few weeks. So now I'm at a juncture. What am I going to do?
Well, you've got
So,
time to figure it out. That's for
Right.
sure.
mhm, mhm.
And also,
Yeah.
you've been doing things. You've been doing things like consulting. I know that you've
Yeah.
worked with Herbie
Herbie J.
Herbie
Pilato asked me to
Pilato.
do commentaries on his. He was producing or helping produce a Bewitched Blu-ray that came out a few months ago, and I provided. I helped him with some of the commentaries on several of the episodes of Bewitched, especially those which featured the classic stars from earlier years, such as, of course, Agnes Moorehead, and I did one with Charlie Ruggles and one with Marion Lawrence, some of the old timers that had film careers before they were television stars.
Just for fun, uh, given your 40, 50 years of collecting
Mhm.
and of sharing, and sharing more frequently now, but certainly with the Long Beach
Mhm.
seniors and things like that.
Mhm.
Give us a sense, maybe if you could, of maybe in the film area, an example in the film area and of the early TV area, maybe one or two of your favorite things that have really uh, propelled you to keep collecting.
Oh gosh. Well, with film, it was discovering so many films off watching TCM and before TCM TNT. I fell in love with pre-code Warner Brothers, uh, which was an era I wasn't exposed to as a kid, so it was all new to me. Um, I have another friend that says that any movie that you've never seen is a new movie, and I was discovering new pre-code movies every day on TCM, so that became a passion for collecting. Leonard Maltin had a line of videotapes and laser discs and later DVDs called Forgotten Hollywood. Uh, and boy, those were wonderful. Um, and then when the Argane comedies came out from restored from original prints, I was used to seeing King Features syndicate prints on television that didn't have the original titles. Now they were released uncut on video and laserdisc and DVD, complete with the original titles. That was a treasure. Um, this
I like
Laserdisc here, this Hollywood documentary by Kevin Brownlow. I saw that on commercial television before the videotape era in the mid '70s, and that opened the world of silent film to me. Um, and as far as television, um, being able to see things like I Love Lucy, which were always cut to shreds on syndicated television in order to provide more commercials. When I was watching I Love Lucy in Houston in the '70s, they would always just arbitrarily cut the first 2 or 3 minutes out of Act One or the first 2 or 3 minutes out of Act Two, and just abruptly come into the scene from a commercial, come into the scene in mid sentence,
yeah.
and you would have to have watched an episode 3 and 4 and 5 times in order to figure out in order to say you've seen the complete episode, because they were nice enough to, when they run it the first time, they would arbitrarily chop the first 3 minutes of Act One, and then when they ran it the next time, they would cut the first 3 minutes of Act Two. So
Yeah.
if you were a fan, you ultimately saw the entire episode. But now it's
Sure.
available on videotape and on DVD, and now Blu-ray, and in and some of my friends in the Lucy community have done phenomenal work, and I strongly recommend that you pick up the new Blu-ray of I Love Lucy. And uh, if you can't afford the Blu-ray, certainly the DVD set of I Love Lucy. They did phenomenal work. Tom Watson, Rick Carl, Jonathan Angus, Dan Wingate. I can't go on enough about those guys. They
Hmm.
really love. It was a work of love.
What is it about the old stuff, the classic TV, the old movies. What is it about them that really makes you want to collect them instead of, let's say, updating your collection to modern sitcoms and things?
I'm more attracted I always was more attracted to the past than to the present. I remember in the 60s, movies and not so much TV shows, but the movies of the 60s, late 60s in particular, didn't appeal to me as a kid.
Mhm.
They were getting more violent, and of course, yeah, I wasn't allowed to go to all the uh, movies with the racy content, but the violence and the language just didn't appeal to me, and so I gravitated toward the more innocent movies of the earlier era. Now, 50, 60 years later, I'm now discovering some great movies from the 60s that I never saw back in the day, and now I'm seeing them for the first time and loving them. Little things that never crossed my radar, maybe Operation Crossbow or Mirage or titles like that that totally didn't appeal to me as a kid. Now,
Mm.
60 years later, I'm gravitating to those. And conversely, I have little interest in I find the TV that I watch, I don't subscribe to any of the streaming services, but I watch over the air TV, and I find a lot of it is mean spirited and just I can't relate to the characters. I don't know. I'm always 50 years behind the time. Maybe if I live another 50 years, I might find the stuff being made today be more appealing. Who knows?
Well,
Uh,
I think that you've made quite the case for why your knowledge base and what you're able to share is
mm,
attractive to so many of the baby boomers,
mm,
because many of us feel the same way
yeah.
that you have, and we remember more nostalgically, Father Knows Best and
Yeah.
Leave It to
I will
Beaver,
say
and
in defense of things like Father Knows Best in particular, um, people tend to view that as being corny and not true to life. I would argue the point and say it's not that it depicts a world that never existed. It depicts the world as it should exist, and it gives audiences something to strive for. This is the way your life should be. Now you will never meet that goal, but it is something you should work toward. And I don't see that today. I don't see anybody wanting to work toward the kind of lives people lead in sitcoms today, which I won't name.
okay,
Well, the older shows definitely have a lot of uplifting qualities,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure too many of the current shows or movies today have that.
Yeah.
Do have you thought about, since you're retired now and you turning your hobby into a business? You certainly are an expert, as I call an extreme hobbyist.
Yeah.
You could write a book. You could do a
Certainly.
TV show. Have you thought about that?
I have. I've thought about, I think about what I write about because a lot of the things I'm passionate about, the books have already been written. But then I'm trying to think, well, maybe a book on Mervyn LeRoy or somebody that hasn't been uh, discovered yet might be a way to go. So
well, let me ask you this: do you have, if let's say somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing, or maybe wants to invite you to uh, a a public appearance,
mhm.
how would they get in touch with you?
Well, you could email me at guykibbe@yahoo.com.
Okay, so and I purposely went to this one shot so that you could explain. There'll be a lower third there saying Guy Kibbe, address that you just gave. Why
Mhm.
Guy Kibbe? Because as I seem to remember, your first name is Rob, not Guy, and your
Yeah.
last name isn't Kibbe.
Yeah.
So what's Guy Kibbe all about?
But it started 25 years ago when I created the address. It was in what I consider the glory days of TCM, early TCM, when the bulk of what they were showing were old Warner Brothers movies from the 1930s. And anybody that's familiar with what I call the Warner Brothers stock company of those early 30s, particularly the pre-code era through about 19 30, and then ending in the postcode era around 1938. Guy Kibbe was a integral part of that stock company, and he graced many a movie and made many a routine B movie that much better just by showing up. There were so many character actors in those days. Guy Kibbe was just one of many. All they had to do was show up, and the movie instantly got better. The Edward Everett Hortons and the
Yeah.
oh gosh, Henry Armadas. That was the gentleman I was trying to think of earlier. These guys were all over the movies, and sometimes when you got a real seriously B movie, there were no stars. It was all just, there was nobody listed above the title. It was just the featured players and nobody else. And they usually ran about 60 minutes. Things like Havana Widows. The stars of Havana Widows below the title were Glenda Farrell and Joan Blondell. And I believe Guy Kibbe's in that one too, as I recall. And just a delightful fun and unassuming, and just these are the type of movies nobody's ever heard of, and you just, when you discover them, they're just little gems. They're not masterpieces, but they're such fun.
Well, this has just been a fascinating conversation. We hope that because you were able to retire so young compared to what people are doing today, that you will have a long second career of helping to inform the public and keep alive some golden age that many boomers enjoy, and other people will pick up because of your enthusiasm.
Yeah. And now I'm discovering a lot of film noir that I've never seen. And again, if it's a movie you've never seen, it's a new movie. I'm discovering so many new film noirs that I just never at a younger age gave the time of day to. And I'm discovering the Bud Bedecker, Randolph Scott westerns of the 50s. Again, they're little B movies that ran in the bottom half of double bills in the 50s, and they're just tightly written, usually running time of about 80 minutes or less. Little westerns, and they're just so much fun.
Yeah.
But we look forward to seeing you, and maybe when you come back fully reincarnated in a second act to talk about what you're doing at that point. But thank you for sharing your first act and what going into a second act, and that you're alive and well, like most of us, and are going to have a nice long career, either sharing what you want or just continuing to love what you want all these years.
Thank you, Rob, and enjoy retirement.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on.
For more on Celebrating Act 2, visit our webpage, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and tell your friends. Celebrating Act 2 is the user manual for the second half of your life.